What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guy, Cody here. And guys, I wanted to make kind of a unique video. We've been talking all about off-season, free agency, NFL draft, all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to make kind of a little bit of a different video. And obviously, this is before any of that stuff takes place, but kind of looking ahead to 2025 for the Indianapolis Colts, looking at some players on their roster, wanted to kind of look and say, hey, who are some players that could be in for some bigger roles potentially in 2025 and moving forward. But before we get into today's video, just want to let you guys know this video is powered by BetUS. If you are looking for a sports book this offseason, be sure to check out BetUS. All right, guys, let's get into today's video. Okay, starting off with the first player that I have here that might take on and could potentially take on a really big role here in 2025 is the Indianapolis Colts third-round pick, Matt Gonzalez. So you saw Matt Gonzalez take on a bigger role when Braden Smith was out with the personal issue. We still don't have any answers or any clarity on what's going to happen with the future of Braden Smith. But if he does decide to, number one, hang it up, or if the Colts decide to move on from him, which they'd save over $17 million, if they did do that, the Indianapolis Colts could look potentially to give that starting right tackle position to Gonzalez. I felt like for the most part, especially as a rookie, he held his own very well. And I thought he gave you some confidence, I guess, in being the guy moving forward at right tackle. And he's going to be cheaper. He's on his rookie deal. So that would make some sense for the Colts to go that direction. I've been on the record. I'll be on the record again saying I don't think they just need to hand him this position. I think they need to bring in some sort of competition. But I do think if Braden Smith is not on the team here in 2025, it's Matt Gonzalez's positions to lose here. I really do believe that. And he could go into the season being that presumed starter at right tackle. So he's a guy that I look at right away that could be a second-year player that could take a massive jump, even from the games that he played a year ago, be the full-time starter. So that would make a lot of sense there. Another guy just like it, and the Colts went back to the offensive line in the fourth round. They took Tanner Bortolini out of Wisconsin. And Tanner Bortolini filled in for Ryan Kelly when Ryan Kelly really missed a good chunk of the season. Bortolini and Danny Pinter both filled in different ways, and felt like for the most part, Bortolini played very well when he was on the field. Now, he had a few issues, but overall as a rookie, considering, coming in that standpoint, I thought he played just fine. I really do. And I think he played very well, enough to give us confidence, just like Gonzalez, that he can be the future of that position. I mean, we all know he came in as the most athletic center in a long time out of last year's draft. And he proved he's not just athletic. He can definitely ball, and he can definitely play some high-level center. So for the Colts and their standpoint, we'll see what happens with Ryan Kelly. I do think even if it is a small chance, there is a chance Ryan Kelly does return for at least one more year. But if not, and the Colts elect just to go young, which we've heard rumors that might be the case, I do think Bortolini would be the guy to get the first crack at it. And currently right now, he's the only center really of note on the roster. So it makes some sense there for the Colts to go about that. And obviously I would like for them to re-sign Danny Pinter as well, but I do think it makes sense for the Colts and for Bortolini, if the Colts do move off of him, to give him and hand him that position. And obviously you got to make him earn it, but I think he's proven enough as a rookie that he could be that guy, and it makes some sense for the Colts to go in that direction. So yeah, first two guys here are the Colts offensive line guys that were rookies a season ago that played significant snaps for them with all the injuries and all the issues with two of their veterans. So those two guys make some sense there. I have a couple other guys I want to highlight as well. I kind of look at this young defensive line, and there's a lot of question marks right now with this young defensive line. You obviously have, Laiatu Latu, who is going to be that presumed starter on the edge. You have Kwity Paye, who's probably going to be the other starter on the edge. But beyond that, there's a lot of question marks with this defensive line. I mean, you have Samson Ebukam coming off of a major Achilles injury and going to turn 30. Colts could cut him. That would make some sense for them to save over $7 million by cutting him. They don't know what's going to happen with Dio Adeng, but we have no clue what's going to happen with him. Could he be a guy that the Colts move on from? I mean, I think there's a high chance they bring him back, but I also could see a scenario where they look at it and say, hey, you know what? We think we can do better. So that's kind of up in the air right now. You don't really know with a couple of these other guys. So there's a lot of question marks on defensive line. So for me, with this scheme change, I kind of think about it. Would it make sense for maybe some of these young guys? I'm thinking specifically Adetomiwa Adebaware, who really hasn't done a ton in his first 2 years. Could he get an extended role here with the Indianapolis Colts? And could a guy like Isaiah Land even get another role with the Indianapolis Colts too? Again, I think they probably should address it in some way, especially if they move off of a couple of these guys. But we'll have to see how that works. But I definitely could see Adetomiwa especially getting, a pretty big role here in 2025 if the Colts don't really address it majorly and if they move on from one or a couple of these guys here this next season. But I guess we'll have to see on that. But yeah, moving on now, guys. I have one more guy I want to highlight here on the defensive side of the ball. But before we look at my final player that I want to highlight here for the Indianapolis Colts, just want to remind you guys this episode is powered by BetUS. So want to show you a little bit about BetUS and what they offer here for you guys this offseason. With obviously football being done, I want to kind of highlight this a little bit. So you got all these different sports here. Obviously football is done now, but you have basketball, you have hockey, baseball starting up here soon, golf, Olympics, tennis, all this kind of stuff. So for example, we'll just go to basketball here. So you have a bunch of different things that you can look at here if you want to. You have NBA, you have college football, heck, you even have Croatia, right? You have a bunch of different things here that you can highlight. You can have different awards that you can bet on, like Sixth Man of the Year, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, different stuff like championships, or anything like that. There, you could just keep going down if you want to. And then you can even go to different games as well and bet on those. So there's a ton you can do, guys, when it comes to BetUS. So, guys, be sure to check out BetUS today. Use their promo code YouTube150 for a 150% sign-up bonus. Again, that's YouTube150 for a 150% sign-up bonus. Be sure to do this, guys. But just wanted to say shout out to them for powering this episode here as we're talking about some players who could break out for the Indianapolis Colts, who could be in for bigger roles. And so I've already talked about, the guys that I've already looked at, guys. And, the interesting thing before I highlight this last guy is I do think the Colts are going to have to do a ton when it comes to addressing, especially like the secondary in free agency, because when I look at this, I don't see a lot of guys right now that are young that could be in for bigger roles. I see a big change coming in this secondary for the Colts via free agency and via the draft. So I think there's going to be a lot of an infusion of fresh guys in there on this defense, because really right now you have two young guys and Kenny Moore that are really like guys that you think can be a part of your team for the next number of years. Outside of that, you've got questions about Julian Blackmon, and you got questions about free safety, corner. There's a lot of questions right now when it comes to this unit. So I was tempted to put like a guy like Daniel Scott on here, but again, he's been injured, hasn't even played a meaningful down in 2 straight years. So it's hard for me to put him as a guy right now. But as I'm moving on to the last guy here, and this could be a position I could see the Colts addressing also, and I think they probably should in some way, in the offseason. That, of course, is linebacker Jalen Carlies. And again, Carlies is a former 5th-round pick a year ago. He was a safety coming out of college, transitioned him down to linebacker, and I thought he had some success, in kind of a limited role here in his first season. He obviously got injured, so that kind of knocked off some of his progress and felt like he wasn't as effective as he was earlier in the season. But again, this is a young kid that's still learning the position, and I think he still has a long way to go, to figure it out. And I think he can figure it out. I really do think he can. Now, this is going to be an interesting one, because me personally, if you're asking my personal opinion, I don't think they should just give him this position, the weak side linebacker position. There's question marks about EJ Speed. I personally wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but that's just me. But I would add some real competition, or I'd even add a guy in here to kind of have him be in a similar role, Jalen Jalen Carlisle, that is, have him be in a similar role for at least a season or two more, right? Because he's still learning this position. Or I would draft a linebacker to compete with him for that position. Regardless, I'm not just going to hand him that position, but I do think there is a chance, especially if the Colts go in the draft with linebacker, that Carlisle could be in for a much bigger role in that linebacker position, playing alongside Zaire Franklin, because the Colts really do need a guy that specializes in coverage, and Carlisle does just that. So that could be an opportunity for him to take on a bigger role here in 2025. Now, like I said, me personally, I'd probably give it another season or two to truly make him be a full-time starter. That's just me. So, yeah, guys, that really does it here for my look at some players who could be in for some bigger roles that maybe we haven't talked about or maybe we've forgotten a little bit. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Like I said, guys, there's going to be a ton of new people here, I believe, for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, I think from the tight end position and really most of the defense in the secondary, I think there's going to be a lot of talent infusion. At least I hope so, based off of what we've seen and kind of the lack thereof right now of proven guys in there and even some young guys in there at certain positions. I do think it would make some sense for the Colts to address in a lot of different ways, but we'll have to see what happens. We still got under a month until free agency, so a lot of this stuff may not be positions of need here in the next couple months. We'll have to see on that. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. But guys, again, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.